Hey, what's up guys, Will here for GSM Arena. In our Galaxy S20 review, we covered in depth pretty much all you need to know about the phone, except for the cameras. On paper, they are a bit of a downgrade compared to the S20 Ultras, so in this video we'll do a detailed analysis and see if the regular S20 can hold its own. Let's get started. Unlike the other S20 models, the regular S20 has just 3 cameras on the back. There's a 12-megapixel main cam, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, and a 64-megapixel telephoto camera. The only difference from the S20 Plus is the lack of a depth sensor, so our findings here will pretty much apply to the Plus as well, except for portraits. Of course, the setup is very different from the Ultras. For one, you don't get the huge nanocell sensor in the main camera, so you miss out on the dramatic natural bokeh. But even so, shots from the S20's main cam are excellent, with low noise, great resolve detail, wide dynamic range, and mature processing. Actually, despite their differences, the output from the S20's main cam is pretty hard to tell apart from the Ultras. This is even true at nighttime, where the S20 still holds its own. There's plenty of detail, well-controlled noise, and wide dynamic range. Light sources are rarely blown out. Despite the Ultra's larger sensor, we would say that the S20 can give you the same level of quality in low light. And night mode makes things look even nicer by brightening the shadows and evening out the exposure. These do take longer though, anywhere from 3 to 15 seconds, and the phone may automatically decide to skip this processing if it isn't dark enough out. For zoom, the S20 doesn't have a periscope telephoto. Since the focal length is almost the same as the main cams, there's actually no optical zoom at all. It achieves 3x lossless zoom by cropping from the large 64-megapixel sensor. The interesting thing about this sensor is that it doesn't use Samsung's tetracell technology, which combines 4 pixels into 1. Instead, it uses a regular bare color filter array, so you can make use of the sensor's full resolution. Zoomed shots during the day look decent, but nothing too special. Quality here is actually a bit better than last year's model though. You can zoom in up to 30x, but anything beyond 4x starts to drop in quality a lot. At night, zoomed shots are just okay. The quality is quite similar to what you'd get out of the Note 10. There is night mode available to brighten things up, but there is some visible noise. Compared to what you can take with the S20 Ultra, the S20's zoom in low light looks noisy and messy. One neat feature is the ability to shoot natively with the 64-megapixel camera. These shots come out with more detail than those from the main cam. They are a little noisier though, and dynamic range is a bit more narrow. At night, this setting isn't as good, due to the lack of dual-pixel autofocus. If this shot comes out in focus though, it looks decent. You don't have night mode here. The S20's ultra-wide camera is the same as what you get on the other S20 models. In daylight, colors are punchy and dynamic range is decent, but there's a little more noise than we'd like. At night though, we were impressed by what we could get out of this camera. Just like we were with the S20 Ultra, it really sets the bar for ultra-wide low-light performance. There is a night mode available here, and it gives you better sharpness and more saturated colors, while brightening up the exposure. Let's move on to the Galaxy S20's portraits. These come out looking good, with a nice subject separation. But there are mistakes from time to time, perhaps because it lacks a dedicated depth sensor. The S20's selfie cam is 10 megapixels, compared to the 40 megapixel unit on the S20 Ultra, and quality-wise it's great. Colors are vibrant, and dynamic range is quite impressive. The camera has autofocus too, which is great to have. You can record selfie videos in 4K resolution, and these look good, with nice colors and decent stabilization. Let's have a look at the video quality from the rear cameras, starting with the main one. 4K footage looks really nice, as expected, with wide dynamic range. You can shoot zoomed 4K video from the 64-megapixel camera, and it's all done through cropping. The results are pretty good. At the lower zoom levels, there's no option to record with this camera without the zoom, however. And here's a look at 4K video from the ultra-wide-angle camera. Just a note that you can't record 60fps video from either this or the 64-megapixel cam. 8K video is a major new feature for Samsung's phones, and on the S20, it's actually taken with a 64-megapixel camera. It has more fine detail than 4K video. However, it's hard to appreciate that unless you play it back on an equally high-res monitor. At night, the S20 produces impressive results as far as video goes. It's not quite at the level of the Ultra, but it's way ahead of last year's Note 10. While stabilization is available in all video capture modes, Super steady video recording can only be taken in 1080p. This is extra smooth, and unlike the S20 Ultra, can use either the main or the ultra-wide cam. And finally, there's a cool feature on Samsung's new phones called Single Take. For a few seconds, it captures photos and short clips from all the phone's rear cameras simultaneously to better preserve an interesting moment. So there you have it, guys. Overall, the S20's cameras are nothing to sneeze at, even though you might call this the budget-friendly S20 model. In almost all of our comparisons, the compact S20 can hold its own against the more expensive S20 Ultra. It only really falls short a bit with the zoom, and it lacks natural bokeh and close-ups from the main cam. Otherwise, the S20 delivers a stellar camera experience. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and see you on the next one.